Hello, good morning, everyone, and happy new month to you all. Welcome to the month of August. Let's confirm we are all on the same page. If you can see my screen clearly and you can hear my voice, kindly type in Happy New Month in the comment section. All right, let's see. Hey, Carrie, good morning. Happy New Month to you, and welcome to the month of August. Yeah, yeah. Great. So I need all the other fillers in the house. Kindly confirm you can hear my screen. You can hear me clearly. Oh, beautiful. 511, thank you very much. Good morning. 359, good morning to you. Great, great. 082, yes, we are winning. We are winning this week. All right, that's beautiful. Thank you very much for that confirmation. And I think it's time we kickstart the party. Let's get the party started. Ah, as usual, the first thing I will be doing is to welcoming you all to yet another beautiful session of Extra and Speed Live. And as usual, it shall be hosted by my humble self by the name Sheriff Daramola. I will be taking you on a trading journey where we shall be evaluating the charts. We are going to be evaluating the financial market, where we will be identifying chart patterns, market structures, trend continuation patterns, reversal pattern, what have you. And we shall be using all these parameters or either of these parameters to identify and decipher trading opportunities lining up for us this week and as well during the New York session, which is going to be starting the next couple of hours. So we want to get ourselves prepared for this session and this week in general. If you have any pair or any commodity you want us to look at, come on, feel free to drop it in the comment section and I shall be willing to include this in my schedule for today. As usual, on a Monday morning like this, what we normally do is to identify trading opportunities. In as much as we are not in a hurry to take a position yet, we want to see how price action has been playing out in the last couple of hours that this week has started with, because whatever activities happens during this few hours determines how price action will be heading this week. So we are going to be looking at different scenarios on each pairs and let's get ourselves prepared and fasten your seat belt as we are going to be on a long and interesting journey this morning. So I hope you're going to stay tuned in to the end of the session so that you don't miss out on any opportunity that is lying before us. And I also always advise that you might also want to munch my screen, that is screenshot my screen whenever I'm doing that illustration so that you can use it as a reference point whenever you are making your own individual decision, as this will make your job easier when it's time to open a position. So good morning everybody once again. Without further ado, let's dive into the chart and let's see what is happening. As usual, the first pair we'll be deliberating on is the US oil, and let's see what is happening and what market has for us today, or for this week rather. Oh, 511, good morning, thank you. Happy new month of August. Hey, Patricia Rodriguez. Hi, how are you? Trust you're doing well. Great to have you around. So let's kickstart. So on the US oil, what do we have here? So the first thing we want to be doing is to scale up to the daily time frame so that we can have an holistic view of what is actually happening at this present juncture in the market. Well, if we look at the daily time frame, obviously price has been trending to the upside here. As we can see, price, we were able to connect the series of higher lows at this point to give us a uniform trend line that price has been respecting since the later part of last year. Though we had a breakout of structure here, but immediately after a month or so, price came back above that bullish trend line, and since then price has continued to respect that bullish trend line. But not until in the month of July, I think the first days of July, we saw that significant breakdown of that bullish trend line, giving us a clue into a possible reversal in trend. However, we cannot just jump into such conclusion, as we still need further confirmation to give us that comfort that we are actually going towards the downside. Now, we all understand that from a technical perspective, after price breaks out of a structure, like in this case where price has broken out of that bullish trend line, we expect price to come back and do a retest of the structure with the motive of probably forming a momentum that will lead us into the prior leading price action, which is bearish at this point in time, where price will be going to the downside from there. Or are we going to be having a scenario where price is going to break above that bullish trend line and it will take its bullish trend continuation thus far? So these are the scenarios we are looking out for here. And one thing we want to also notice at this point is that since the mid of June, we were able to spot a bearish trend line. And because we were able to spot that bearish trend line after connecting the series of lower highs since on the 14th of June, we were able to see that bearish trend line which price has been respected in the last couple of months. And right now, price is right back at that trend line. So as you can see, let me zoom in closely into that structure so that we can see what I'm talking about right now. So we have a bearish trend line that has been respected since sometime in the month of June, and we can see here price is right back at that trend line, making this area a very significant level to watch out for this week. And one thing we want to be looking out for here, we have two scenarios that can be playing out for us this week. And the first scenario is that price could probably respect that bearish trend line and send price crashing to the downside. That is a scenario we want to be looking at. And then the other scenario is there is a possibility that price could break above that bullish trend, that bearish trend line, that is break out of that structure, do a retest of the structure, giving us further confirmation in the form of a reversal pattern on lower time frame, after which we could join the rally to the upside from here. And probably this rally could take us back into the bullish trend line we identified on the daily time frame. So now it's necessary we scale down to a much lower time frame where we will be able to see how we intend to take advantage of any potential opportunity this week. So in that regard, I will be scaling down to the 1 hour time frame where we want to look out for structures that we can use to guide our action going forward. Now let's scale up a little into the 2 hours. I want to show you something we've observed. Okay, so now remember we have this bearish trend line that we identified on the daily time frame, which price has been respecting since the month of June. And I told you how we are right at a very sensitive spot, which is an area where the bearish trend line and the temporary bullish trend line that was holding price supported since the beginning of last week trading session actually meet, making a confluence and also making that area a very sensitive level where we want to be looking out for a possible breakout of structure to give us a bullish potential. That is, price breaks out of that structure up to the upside, or are we going to be having price breakdown, sorry, do a trend continuation to the downside. So now with the structure we have here, let's look at what has been happening since the beginning of this week. What has been happening? The first thing we observe here is that price has been oscillating between the $98.50 level and the $97 mark. We saw our price has been oscillating within that area before we saw this engulfing bearish candle that took price out of that structure. Now, this is likely going to be a signal that we might be going bearish. And in addition to the signal, if we look left at least into the structure we have on Friday, we saw this shooting star, which is a signal that there is a level of selling pressure at this point in the market where we saw sharp rejections of the $100 mark, which is also a very, very strong psychological level. So what I want to be doing at this point is to identify that level. That's the $100 mark area. And the reason why I want to identify that level is because if we look left, we can see this area at one point in time being an area that has been a selling niche here. We can see it. There's been a selling niche at this point, and then it has been a demand point at this area. So I want to be connecting this point together. And to do that, I'll bring out my line chart at this point. And then we do that connection so that we can have an horizontal line run across this level. So we have something like this. So the reason why we are identifying this level is because it's also a very strong psychological level. So let's $100 mark, $100 level. So let's put it at the right hand side. Here we go. So we have this structure. Now, price is running right below the $100 mark. And one thing here, like I said, we already have something that looks like a signal, a breakout of structure, where price during the early hours of this week. So one thing I want to be looking out for is this. I want to be looking out for a retest of structure to give me confirmation that price is going bearish. And if price is going bearish on this one, where will our take profit target be? Our take profit target should definitely be around the potential demand zone we identified during the course of last week's trading session. And the reason why that is because we have a level here that was rejected by the buyers in the past at around the $91 mark. So I want to see price action come back into that level in a way that there is a likelihood that if price comes into this level, we could have a trend continuation from here. However, in addition to this, I also want to state here that it is important that as soon as price gets into this key level that was holding price action last week, that's the $95.50 area, I want us to move our stop loss to break even as soon as price gets into this level. If you enter this trade at this point and price gets into the $95 mark, move your stop loss to break even so that you be able to protect your position against any sudden spike in price action, because there is a possibility that price could reject this key level and push to the upside from here. Remember, we have a bullish trend line here after connecting the series of higher lows at this point during the course of last week, and it's possible that we could have a reversal pattern from that area. So what I'm saying at this point is, once we enter here, once we get to the $95 mark, that's around 200 pips, move your stop loss to break even to protect your position, and let's see if price is going to break below this key level. And if price breaks below this key level, that gives us further confirmation that we are actually going bearish. And then if a retest of structure happen, then that welcomes another opportunity to add to our existing position on the US oil. So this is the scenario I'm looking out for. So first of all, with the first sight of what we see here, I'm expecting a bearish momentum. However, if we do at any point in time probably this today or probably during the course of the week, we see a break above of that bearish trend line, that could be a signal that we are going bearish, but it's not yet confirmed yet. And remember, we don't get too excited at the sight of a signal, as we want to wait for further confirmation in the form of a retest of structure, which could probably respect that temporary bullish trend line here, or the bearish trend line, after which we look out for reversal patterns on lower time frame to join the rally to the upside. And if a rally is going to happen this week, definitely our stop loss, our take profit target is going to be within the supply zone, as we want to see how price action will relate with that level. And if we have a breakout of that structure, then we could be looking forward to adding more position to that trade. So what I'm saying here simply is this: on the US oil, I'm expecting a bearish momentum for this week. And the reason why that is because of the signal, the breakout of the structure on the early hours of today. And I want to look for a retest of structure to join the decline to the downside. And if at any point in time we have a break above of that bearish trend line, then that should give us a signal that we are going bullish on this one. So this is the scenario I'm looking out for on the US oil for the week. If you have questions or you need further clarification regarding what I've just discussed so far, feel free to drop a comment, a word or two in the comment section to inquire further. So I'll be taking the next 10 to 15 seconds off to read the chat to see if there are any questions whatsoever regarding what I've just discussed so far. Hello, Andrew Mandy from Gambia. You're welcome. Okay, good morning, 288. Five, 4, 2. Okay, I also just knew what. Okay. Jojo Nini, hello. Okay, 359 is asking for the take profit target for the selling opportunity. Well, I think I explained that earlier. I said there are two scenarios we are looking out for on the selling opportunity here. The first scenario is that we have our take profit target, since we don't want to be too over ambitious here, at around the key level here at the $95.50, which after calculation is around 200 pips. And the reason why I said we should have our take profit target around this area is because of this. Remember, we have this bullish trend line here. Remember, and there is a possibility that price will come back into that bullish trend line like this and do a rejection of that bullish trend line to send price going to the upside. That is the first scenario. So that is why I said we should move. Once price gets it into this level, you should either move your stop loss to break even, or you take your profit at this point and wait to see if we are going to be having a further breakdown of this level, after which a retest should give us further confirmation to join the decline. So in the long term for this week, I'm looking at this demand zone as the final take profit target. That is this level here around the 92 and the $90 mark. And the reason why that is because if we look left, we can see that this area has one point in time been a demand structure for participants in this market. So there is a likelihood that if price comes into this level, we could be seeing a reversal to the upside. But if at the same time we see a breakdown of this potential demand zone during the week, then that gives us further signal that we might be going further bearish. So we wait for confirmation in the form of a retest of that structure, then we can join the further decline. So this is the scenario I'm citing. So the first take profit target should be around this area. That is the key level, that's around the 95, 94, 96 area. and then we should have between the 90 and the 91 area as the long-term take profit target for this week. So I hope I made myself clear. 359 468, good afternoon. Siu Ying 1985, good evening. Okay, it's evening over there. All right, glad to have you around. Okay, great. 359. So in the absence of no other questions, I'm of the opinion that we move on to the next pair. The next pair is the UK oil, and the UK oil, on the UK oil, we're having a similar scenario. But the first thing I want us to be doing here is to scale up a little into the daily time frame to see how price action has been playing out on a long-term perspective. On a long-term perspective, the momentum is still a bullish drive. Definitely still a very strong bullish drive, despite the fact that we had a breakdown of that bullish trend line during the early days of the month of July. And from a technical perspective, we expect that price is likely going to do a retest of structure to send price going to the downside, but we are not sure if that is going to happen at this point in time. Since we are only going to take a perspective for the week, then it is very important we scale down to a much lower time frame where we can see things more clearly. But before I do, I want us to observe this ending channel we were able to identify during the course of I think 2 weeks ago. We were able to identify this descending channel, the one with the red lines on your screen, and we saw a breakout of that structure during the upper week. The previous week, at the upper week before the last, we saw a breakout of that structure here. And one thing I'm expecting is there is a likelihood that price could, as it has broken out of that structure, come back to do a retest of that level before we see that move to the upside. But if we scale down to, let's say, the 4 hours time frame at this point, we would observe that since the breakout of that level, that is, since the breakout of the structure here, let me show you what I mean. Since the breakout of the structure here, we notice that anytime price comes into the 107, $108 level, we see multiple rejection of that level. And if we look left, we can see that that level at one point in time has been a demand zone. You can see we saw a demand zone here, a demand zone here. Then price broke out of that structure, broke down of that structure, came back to do a retest of that structure. Now we now have that area, a previous demand level, now becoming an area where participants are actually doing a sell. And if we come further into recent times, we can see that that same level has also been a supply niche for participants in this market, making that area a very, very significant area. So what I want to be doing here is to label that level a strong supply zone, as we can see from what we've illustrated so far, that this area has been a very strong supply niche. So I want to label this area supply zone. So what this simply means is that any time price comes into that area, we see continuous rejection of that level by the sellers, giving us a clue into the selling potential from this point in the market. Now that we have that scenario here, one thing I will be saying here is that I will be looking for a bearish momentum considering what structure we have here. And if we look at this bullish trend line that has been holding price action since mid-July, we saw the move from this level. Hold on a second, let me show you. I want to give you a visual representation of what I'm talking about here. We saw price move out of that level of that bullish trend line. Price came back to do a retest of that bullish trend line. Then it went up, but you can see that the expansion here wasn't as huge as the one we have here, giving us a clue into the diminishing returns on the demand. So now price rejected this level and we had a breakdown of that demand level, of that bullish trend line. And if we have a breakout of structure, we expect price to do a retest of structure so that we can join the decline to the downside. So on the UK oil as well, I'm expecting a bearish momentum here on the UK oil. And to guide our actions going forward, I think it is appropriate that we identify a very solid key level. And if we look left, we can see that we have a key level right at, is it 103? Yes, 103. So let me relabel this. So our key level has shifted from 104 last week into $103 for this week. And the reason why we have a key level here, I will show you. We have a demand zone here. We have a demand zone here. And if this area does not hold, we didn't see a reversal pattern that gives us a potential opportunity of going bullish here, and we see further breakdown of this level, then that gives us that signal we are looking for to sell the UK oil. So what I'm saying here simply is this. If we see a reversal pattern along this place, then there is a possibility that price could do a buy into with the intention of retesting that bullish trend line. And you can see that that area also aligns with the supply zone we identified earlier, after which you might be seeing a crash to the downside from there. That is the first scenario. Then the other scenario is that we see an outright breakdown of the 103 level. Then a retest of that structure should give us further confirmation as we look out for patterns on lower time frame that supports a trend continuation to the downside. So if that happens, our take profit target will definitely be around the 94, 95, $96 area. And the reason why that is very, very obvious. We can see we have a demand structure here. So we want to see price come into that level. But before we do that, there is a structure around this area we also want to take into consideration. As if price continues to the downside from here and price gets into the $100 mark, we want to move our stop loss to break even, or if possible, lock in some profit so that you don't get stopped out during unnecessary spike to the upside from here, because at the $100 mark is a very strong psychological level that could send some ripple in the market that will push price in the opposite direction. So let's move our stop loss to break even as soon as price gets into the $100 mark, or lock in some profit. And if price breaks down the $100 mark, a retest of that level should give us further confirmation that we are going bearish. So this is my scenario here on the UK oil. If you have any questions whatsoever, feel free to drop a comment, a word or two in the comment section, and I will be willing to be of help. So I'll be taking the next 10 to 15 seconds off to read the charts, and let's see if there are any questions regarding what I've just discussed so far. AUDUSD. I hope I got that correctly. Good morning. How can I start? Okay. Like goes. Hello. All right. Okay. So let's move on to the next pair. So the next pair we'll be taking now will have to do with the forex pairs, since we don't have any commodity yet. So let's take the gold. Okay, let's take gold first, then we take the forex pairs. So on the gold, what do we have here on the gold? On a long-term perspective, let's look at what's happening on the long-term perspective. On the long-term perspective, we go to the daily time frame. It is obvious that price action has been bearish since March this year. We can see our price has continued to find lower lows and lower highs, giving us that bearish momentum perspective. Now that we are at this point in time, we were able to enjoy some profitable moves from here. Last week, we enjoyed this bullish momentum. So what do we expect to see going into the new week? Well, the first thing I want to observe here is this. Since the beginning of the year, price has been very bullish, and not until we saw that breakdown of that bullish trend line in the later part of July, around this area, that changed the perspective of the market into bearish, as we have a breakdown of structure. And so one thing here is there is a likelihood that price is likely going to come back into that structure with the intention of doing a trend continuation to the downside. So how can we take advantage of that move if price is actually going to go into that structure? That is a scenario we want to look at. That's the first scenario. Then the other scenario is this. If we look left, we can see that we have this channel we were able to identify during the course of last week's trading session. You can see, let me wave the trend line so that you can see what I'm talking about. So we have that trend line, and then we have this trend line also, which price has been respecting in the last 2 months. And right now, price is right around the resistance level of this channel here. Here is around this resistance level of this channel here. So there is a likelihood that price could probably reject that level and push price to the downside. So we are going to be looking at two scenarios this morning. So we'll scale down to a much lower time frame where we'll now look at for how we want to take advantage of any opportunity lining up for us this week. Now scaling down to the 1 hour time frame, I guess, okay, on the 1 hour time frame, this is what we see here. This is what we see here on the 1 hour time frame. And remember, this is the bearish trend line I showed you on the daily time frame, and we've already seen a signal. Remember, we are not getting too excited at the sight of a signal. We want to wait for confirmation. We already have a breakout of that structure. That's a signal that we are looking out for, and the signal has come in form of an engulfing candle. So now what we want to be waiting for is that price should come back and do a retest of structure. So we're expecting price to come back and do a retest of either the bearish trend line we identified on the daily time frame, which is this dotted line you can see here, or price could go as far as testing the $1,760 level, after which we look out for reversal patterns on lower time frame to join the rally to the upside from this point. So on the gold, we have a very simple setup that if we are very vigilant and conscious, we should be able to take advantage of this move when it finally happens. So we already have a breakout of structure right now. So one thing we want to be doing is to wait for a retest of structure with a reversal pattern on lower time frame that will support a trend continuation to the upside. So let's wait and see how price action is going to play out during the New York session. And one thing I also want to let you know around this point is that if at any point in time during the week, or probably during the New York session today, we see a breakdown of this $1,760 level, just have it in mind that we might be having a shift in direction of price action. And the reason why that is, remember we have this bearish trend line we identified on the daily time frame. So price is right, that means price is right back below that bearish trend line, making this engulfing candle a false breakout. And if we have a breakdown of that 1760 level, remember we are not getting too excited at the sight of a signal, as we want to wait for further confirmation, and the confirmation could come in form of a retest of the $1,760 level, or it could go as far as retesting that bearish trend line one more time to send price crashing to our key level, major key level that we identified last week at 1740, which also shares a confluence with the bullish trend line, here. And around this point is where I will be taking my profits if a sudden momentum happens, as there is a possibility that price could reject this level, and do a reversal pattern to push price to the upside. So these are the scenarios we want to be looking out for here on the XAUUSD. So don't get things too complicated. It's not too complicated at all. We already have 1760 level here to hold price action for us. We have a signal already. We want to wait for price to come back and do a retest of this bearish trend line, or it could go as far as testing the 1760 level. Look out for your reversal pattern on lower time frame. It could be your double bottom structure, your inverse head and shoulder pattern. It could be your wedge, pennant, whatever it forms. Look out for that reversal pattern that supports a trend continuation to the upside and join the rally to the upside. It's very simple. Then the other scenario is if we have a breakdown, that is if price comes down and breaks below the $1,760 level, then we should have it in mind that we might be having a momentum shift. And if that is going to be happening, we want to remain patient and wait for price to come back and do a retest of structure before we join the decline into the $1,740 area. So if we are doing that buying momentum, where will our take profit target be? Well, on a long-term perspective, our take profit target should be as the bullish trend line. Remember, we had a breakdown of the bullish trend line on the daily time frame during the early days of the month of July. We probably might be expecting price to go back to do a retest of that level. But one thing I'll be saying here is that in the meantime, let's just hold the around the $1,780 and the 1,800 area as our take profit target for now. We don't want to be too over ambitious, and if we see structures or patterns supporting a trend continuation from that level, then we will be adding more positions to our trade. So let's for the meantime aim at around the 1,780 and the $1,800 area for our take profit target for any bullish potential here on the XAUUSD. And if we have a breakdown of 1,760 level with an engulfing bearish candle, please be mindful that we might be having a momentum shift, and if that's happening, we wait for a retest of structure to join the decline. So this is my scenario here on the gold. If you have any question whatsoever, feel free to drop a word or two in the comment section, and I will be willing to be of help to make further clarifications and shed more light on what seems to be unclear to you. Titia, okay, someone will attend to you in a moment. All right. Okay, so let's move on to the next pair. So the next pair I'll be taking is a currency pair. And one thing we'll be looking at for the first, I want us to look at the major pairs for now. And let's start with the GBPUSD. And on the GBPUSD, I'm actually expecting a bullish momentum here on the GBPUSD. And the reason why that is, I will be sharing with you in a moment. But first of all, let's scale up to the daily time frame so that we can have an holistic view of what we are actually having here. And if we look at what is happening on the daily time frame, it is obvious that price action has been on a bearish momentum since the beginning of the year, and I was able to find a resultant bearish trend line, which has been a major determinant of price action. As we can see, if price comes below it, it goes to the downside, and if price breaks above it, it goes to the upside. And you can see this has been very uniform. If price breaks below it here, it goes to the downside. It rejects it, it goes to the downside. And right now, price is heading back into that bearish trend line. So what are we expecting here this week? Are we going to be seeing a breakout of this trend line? Hold on a second. Are we going to be seeing a breakout of this trend line? That is, price push out of that trend line with a retest or structure that would incite a trend continuation to the upside, or is price going to respect this trend line, and then we could see a reversal pattern around this trend line that will send price crashing to the downside? So we have two scenarios we are looking out for here. So let's scale down to a much lower time frame and let's see how to catch that move when it finally happens. So let's scale down to the 2 hours time frame. And on the 2 hours time frame, the first thing I was able to do here is to identify a bullish trend line. And if we look at the structure since the middle of July, we saw how price has been respecting that bullish trend line, and we have consecutive higher highs and higher lows. At this point, we see sharp rejections of that level and price continue to the upside from here. So now, before price broke out to the upside, remember we have a supply niche here where every time price comes into this level, we see selling momentum from that level. And you can see here, even into the course of last week trading session, we were saying that anytime price comes into the 1.20500 level, we see that selling momentum happen. But fortunately for the buyers, they were able to take out all the selling position around that area with the breakout of that structure, giving us a signal that we are going bullish here. Then price came back to give us further confirmation that a bullish potential opportunity is yielding at this point. So remember, this is the bearish trend line we identified on the daily time frame. So for me at this point, if we are taking a buy here, that area appears to be our first take profit target zone. It's around the 1.23 and the 1.235 area. Appears to be an area for our first take profit target zone. And if we do have a breakout of that structure, then that gives us a further signal that we are going bullish. Then we wait for price to do a retest of that structure. Then we look out for patterns to join the trend continuation to the upside. So that is where our take profit target is going to be. But now that we have identified this, how do we take advantage of a trading opportunity as we head into the New York session? Well, let's scale down to the 1 hour time frame and let's see what we have here. So on the 1 hour time frame, this is what we have here. I am actually in this trade already and it's already running in profit, so I was able to lock in, place my stop loss at break even so that I don't get caught up in an unnecessary downtrend scenario. So one thing I want to be doing here is to identify a level that will guide our action during the New York session and to make our job very easy so that we don't get caught up in any dilemma. So the first thing I want to do here is to find a structure. I will show you why. And the structure around the 1.21, I think the 1.219, yeah, 1.219, I think. Okay, let's label this for the sake of clarity. 1.219, I guess. Yeah. So we have a level here at 1.219, which is going to be our yardstick. So what do I mean by yardstick? It helps, it guides us, it makes us not get confused, as we want to be buying anywhere right above this level and we want to be selling anywhere right below this level. But for now, I'm not doing any sell right now. I'm only looking for buys on the GBPUSD for now. Now, during the early hours of today of the week, we can see our price consolidated within the 1.22 level and the 1.21600 area. We saw like an indecision phase before we saw that breakout of structure. So with that breakout of structure, that gives me a signal that we are going bullish, though this breakout is not huge enough, but I'm still of the opinion that we are going bullish on this one. And if you had actually missed the entry right above the 1.219 level, then we still have another opportunity to join this rally. If price comes back into the structure, it could go as far as the 1.219, it could go as far as the 1.216 area, which has been a level that price action has been rejecting since the beginning of the week. And then we look out for a reversal pattern. Anywhere it goes, it could be above the 1.219, it could be around the area where price has been consolidating since the beginning of the week. Then we look out for reversal pattern. It could be a double bottom structure. I'm just using that as an example for this case. So we look out for a reversal pattern on lower time frame, then we can join the rally into the upside. So like I said, between this area appears to be an area suitable for our take profit target, which will dovetail into about over 100 pips to catch here if price moves in our direction. So this is what I'm looking out for on the GBPUSD. So I'm expecting that that bullish momentum finally comes. We already have a signal already. Let's wait for that retest of structure so that we can now join the rally to the upside. Now, do we have any possible bearish momentum here? Well, for me at this point, I'm not going to be looking for any selling opportunity as long as price is still right above that bullish trend line, the green dotted line on your screen. As long as price is still right above that bullish trend line, I'll continue to look for bullish opportunity. And there is a possibility that price could still come back into, even if we have a breakdown of the 1.219, I'm not wary at all. There is a possibility that price could come back into that bullish trend line to do a reversal pattern that will push price to the upside from there. So as long as price is still right above that bullish trend line, we still want to be holding a bullish bias on the GBPUSD. But if we have a breakdown of that bullish trend line, then we can be thinking of a bearish momentum. But for now, let's remain tuned in to a bullish potential here, and whatever happens in the next 24 hours, when we come back here tomorrow, we shall see what happened and then deliberate on what next to do from that point. So if you have questions whatsoever, you need further clarification, feel free to drop a word or two in the comment section, and I will be taking the next 10 to 15 seconds off to read the comments. If you have questions, feel free, drop a word or two, and I am very, very willing to clarify your doubts. All right, in the absence of no questions, let's take one more pair before we call it a day. Let's take one more pair before we call it a day. So let's take should we take AUDUSD or we take Euro USD? Let's take AUDUSD. On the AUDUSD, I'm also expecting a bullish potential here on the AUDUSD, and let's scale up to the daily time frame so that I can share with you from an holistic perspective what my expectations are. Well, I think, is it daily or the 4 hours time frame? Let's use the 4 hours time frame. Yeah, the 4 hours time frame is preferable. So on the 4 hours time frame, if we look at the structure we had here since the beginning of July, we'll notice how the Aussie has been gaining momentum since the beginning of the month of July. And the bullish trend line here is an evidence that that is what is happening. If we look at the structure we have here, price has been respecting that bullish trend line, even though we had a breakdown of that structure at some point in time in the month of June. It turned out to be a reversal pattern that pushed price to break out of that structure to start continuing to respect that bullish trend line. As you can see, we continue to see consecutive higher highs and lower highs, and I'm thinking that is going to continue into the week, into this new week. And because of that, I already have a position running already at how many pips am I in profit now? I'm in profit of about let's say 35 pips in profit at the moment. So one thing I was looking out for is this: when I scaled down to the 1 hour time frame, what I saw was that since the beginning of the week, that is in the last how many hours, that is in the last 12-15 hours, I saw our price has been oscillating within this level before we saw that breakout of structure. Though I missed that breakout of structure, by the time I woke up to check my chart, price has already moved very far. Normally I should have taken that opportunity right from this level here. So right above that level should have been an area where we could have taken a trade on the AUDUSD. But if you had missed out on that opportunity, we still have another privilege to take advantage of that move if we have a correction. And I will be expecting a correction to happen probably today or tomorrow, after which an opportunity might arise during Wednesday or so. So on the AUDUSD, we are expecting a bullish potential here, and to make our job easier, I want to identify a level that we shall be using as our yardstick going into the new week. And that will be around, let me see where that is going to be. Let's place it right around the 0.7, a very strong psychological level. 0.7 is a very strong psychological level we can work with. And so we have, okay, let's label this area 0.700 level. So we have a level right there to look out for any trading opportunity this week. So if you had missed this opportunity to the upside, then I would advise that you hold on and be patient to wait for price to come back into this level, giving us further confirmation in the form of a reversal pattern right above this area to join the rally to the upside. So if that's going to be happening, if we are going to have a rally to the upside, where is our take profit target going to be? Well, I want to be choosing the 0.715 area. That is, this is where price action was at the beginning of the month of June. So the beginning of the month of June, we have a level here which has been a demand niche in the past, and at the same time it has been a supply level also in the past. So let's wait to see how price is going to react at this level. Are we going to be seeing a breakout of that structure, or price is going to respect that level and push price to the downside from there? So at the meantime, we aim at around the 0.715, 716, 717 to 0.72 area as our take profit target zone for the AUDUSD. And remember, we are still on a bullish trend line, and I'm not thinking of selling the AUDUSD anytime soon unless we see an outright breakdown of that bullish trend line, which a retest of structure should give us for that confirmation to join the decline. So for now, I'm still maintaining a bullish bias on the AUDUSD. Even if we have a break below the $0.7 mark, I'm still waiting. There is a likelihood that price could come into that bullish trend line to send price to the upside. But if that does not happen, if we have a reversal pattern right above that 0.7 level during the New York session on our lower time frame, please be on standby to join that rally. So this is my scenario here on the AUDUSD. Are there any questions before we call it a day? Are there any questions whatsoever? All right, so in the absence of none, let's quickly run through the pairs we deliberated on today. Let's do a recap and let's call it a day. So the first pair we deliberated on today was the US oil, and on the US oil we're expecting that bearish momentum, and it appears we already have a rejection of that structure. Are you in already? If you are not in, well, probably you might be waiting for further confirmation, but I think we have a rejection here. If you scale down to the 15 minutes time frame, what do we have at this point? Let's see what we have here. Okay, we already have a sharp rejection here, and I think we already have a sharp rejection here. So let's see how price action plays out. If I were you, let's see. Okay, bring out my line chart at this point and connect the series. Oh, sorry. Connect the series of what's happening here? Connect the series of higher lows here, and if we have a breakdown of the structure, if you are not in, if you have a breakdown retest of the structure here on lower time frame, you want to join that decline to the downside from here. So that is my perspective here on the US oil. So I'm still expecting that bearish momentum to happen, and let's see how price action plays out during the New York session. And remember what I told you here, your take profit targets, your initial take profit target should be around the $95.50 level, which is around this area. Then if we see a breakdown retest of the structure here, then you want to add one more position to your trade with the aim of a take profit target right between the $90 and the $92 area. So this is the scenario we're looking out for the week on the US oil. Then we moved on to talk about the UK oil, which we also have a similar scenario here. But one thing, what makes this different is that we have a key level at $103 mark, and I told you how we want to take advantage of that bearish momentum, as we want to wait for signals in the form of a breakdown of this key level, then retest of this key level on lower time frame, where we look out for patterns to join the decline to the downside. And there is a caveat to this. I made mention of the $100 mark being a very significant level, and as soon as price gets into this $100 mark area, we want to lock in some profits or probably move your stop loss to break even to protect your position against any sudden reversal situation. And if we now have a breakdown of that key level at $100 mark, then we wait for a retest of structure to join the decline into the final take profit target zone, which we have around the $94 and the $96 area. So that will be dovetailing to a maximum of about 600 pips with a minimum of around 200 pips to catch here on the UK oil if price moves according to plan. Then we moved on to talk about the XAUUSD, where we already have a bullish signal here on the 1 hour time frame, and that signal has come in the form of a breakout of structure. And I told you that if you had missed that trade, then you want to wait for price to come back and do a retest of the zone. It could be the 1766 or 65 area or 1760 area, but the most important thing we want to see is we want to see a reversal pattern right above this level. It could be a double bottom structure before we want to join the rally to the upside. And our take profit target, I said, should be around the $1,800 and $1,780 area, at least for the meantime, and let's see how price action will relate with that level. However, if we do have a breakdown of the $1,760 level, I told you that that's a signal that we might be having a momentum shift. And if that happens, we don't want to get too excited at the sight of that signal. We want to wait for price action to come back to do a retest of that level at 1760 level, or it could go as far as testing that resistance point we identified on the daily time frame. Then we could be looking for an opportunity to join the decline. And if that decline happens, our take profit target should be at $1,740 area, at least for the meantime. And let's see how price action relates before we take any further action from that zone. Then we went on to share something on the GBPUSD where I'm expecting a bullish momentum. I told you I'm already in this trade and I've moved my stop loss to break even at this point. And for those who actually missed that opportunity, then we want to wait for price action to come back and do a retest of the structure. It could be in form of this. It could touch the 1.2190 area, or it could be around above that area. But one thing we want to see is a reversal pattern right above that level to join the rally into this area. So this area is the bearish trend line we identified on the daily time frame. So we have in our take profit target zone around the 1.23 and the 1.235, at least for now. Let's see what happens. And I told you that even if we witness a breakdown of the 1.219 area, we are not going to be doing any selling momentum on this one, as long as price is still right above that bullish trend line we were able to identify on the higher time frame. This bullish trend line, the dotted line here. So there is a likelihood that price could still come back into that bullish trend line before we see that move to the upside. So let's see how price action plays out this week in the next 24 hours, and that will determine what our plans will be tomorrow. Then the last one we shared today is the AUDUSD, which has already been profit for me too as well. And I told you that we still have another opportunity to take here. This is just a breakout of structure. And we all understand that from a technical perspective, when we experience a breakout of structure, we expect price to come back and do a retest of structure before we want to join that rally to the upside. So let's wait and see how price is going to relate with the level above the $0.7 mark. If price comes as close to that area, we want to be taking advantage of a bullish potential. And also, there is a possibility that price could break the 0.7 level. If it does, remember, we are not taking any bearish momentum here as long as price is still right above that bullish trend line here. And if price comes below that level, it could probably have an intention to respect that bullish trend line before we see the move to the upside. So our take profit targets, like I told you, I shared with you, we used the structure in the past. I think, yes, we used the structure in the past. We have a structure here. And the month of July, on the month of June rather, the beginning of the month of June, we had the area at around the 0.72 area, which was a supply and demand zone at one point in time. So let's see how price relates with that level. If it finally gets to that point, then we now make a decision following that development. So on this note, I would like to call it a day, and let's see what happens during the New York session. And we shall be back here tomorrow to do a follow-up on the pairs we have deliberated on today. So thank you very much for being around. I really appreciate every moment I had with you guys here. And I'm hoping to see you same time tomorrow, 11 a.m. West African time, 10 a.m. UTC, same place, Experience Speed Live Hub. And I wish you best of luck today. Bye bye.